Are you really going to eat that? Podcast episode 124. Hey there, I'm your host Wendy Hill and I'm a naturopathic nutritional therapist and expert in female hormone health. I specialise in helping women gain confidence and understand their bodies, allowing them to shine. I'm a huge foodie and this podcast allows me to bring you an eclectic mixture of guests where food and health is our uniting passion. So Melissa, welcome to the podcast. Thank you for coming on today. It is very early in the day for Melissa and at the end of the day for me. So we're at each end of the spectrum, aren't we today?
We are. Thank you, Wendy, for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Oh, me too. So could you just kind of give my audience a bit of a brief intro into you and what it is that you do?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm a holistic health and life coach. I'm a wife. I'm a mom. And on top of that, I love to help women break free from sugar without deprivation so they can be happy, healthy, and love their life. Because I was an exhausted, burnt out, stressed out, angry mama living off of sugar and caffeine to survive. And I found freedom from that. And so when I'm not, shuttling kids and doing the mom and wife thing, I am helping women find that freedom. So
amazing. So I just wanted to, obviously you are now a health coach. So is it predominantly women that you work with?
Yes, it is.
Cool. And what do ladies mainly come to you for? Is it kind of stress? Is it sugar management? I mean, I know, because the thing with me is with my clients is they might come to me with one thing, but your practice, your delivery might be something else. So what do they tend to sort of come to you for help with?
It's usually sugar and weight are the two things, but kind of like you alluded to, Wendy, like that underlying thing is it's not really the food. It's more of like why we go to the sugar. Like what is the emotion? What is the belief? What is the like happening in our life around us that will cause us to go towards that? Because it's really not the sugar. Usually something underneath that. So
it is, isn't it? It's a coping mechanism. And it's so hard, isn't it? Because food, we have to eat. I say that I must have said this on interviews so many times. We have to eat. We can't. It's not like another addiction. If it's alcohol or drugs or something, we can remove that entirely from our lives and we can step away. But it isn't. I mean, why is food so controlling? What is it about kind of food and particularly sugar that makes it so controlling? Do you think?
I think there's a few things, Wendy. I think one is sugar is like in almost everything. It's in ketchup, like it is infused into so many things, at least in the States, of what we eat. I think your guidelines for food are a little bit different over there.
Oh, but it's still in everything. It's still, yes. It's a nightmare. I say to people, just read the label, and they're always really shocked by how often sugar, and also the kind of, I don't like the fact that it becomes in different terms as well. So
yes.
That's
over
really
200 names.
Yeah. Sneaky.
It's in everything. It's super addictive. It's more addictive than cocaine. And I think it's socially acceptable. I mean, let's be honest, like as a mom and a wife, I'm probably not going to go out and get sloshed at the bar, but I can go to a party and eat all the sugar and there won't be any judgment for that.
Yeah, so true, isn't it? So true. And also, do you think there's that reward mechanism as well? We instill this in such an early age that you've done a good job. Here's a treat for you. Like if you eat all your dinner. Like my grandma was quite famous for sort of saying that she always say we didn't have to eat all our dinner in her house. She always used to say leave room for pudding, leave room for dessert. But it is that treat, isn't it? We see sugar as a treat, and actually it really isn't, is it?
No, it's poison. If I can be so bold as to say that
you
without
can be bold.
People.
Please be bold. It is, isn't it? Did you get coaching help before you became a coach, or was your journey through coaching part of that journey?
Kind of both and. So my moment where I kind of hit my knees, Wendy, and was like, I really need to change. Our son was a newborn. He was not sleeping through the night. So I'm exhausted. Our 2-year-old daughter had some undiagnosed food allergies and some sensory challenges. So she was kind of a hot mess. My husband was traveling for work. And then I had gotten diagnosed with PTSD from childhood trauma, like all within probably a month's worth of time. Wow. And so I'm like, okay, we need to heal. I need to heal. We need to figure out how I can get some sleep. We need to figure out how to navigate this food allergy situation. And so I started coaching, I started therapy, I started doing all of these things, met with a naturopath, really learned about the impact of food on mood and overall health. And that was a game changer for me. And that's kind of what propelled me forward. But frustratingly enough, I was noticing all of the internal changes. I felt amazing. I had more energy. I was happy. Like I just was a different person internally, but everybody noticed the weight loss on the outside. And I'm like, no, like, yes, that did happen. And that is a nice side effect. But let me tell you how good I feel. Let me tell you how much more energy I have. Let me tell you how much more calm I am. Let me tell you how I'm not angry. Like, let me tell you how this has changed me from the inside.
It's so frustrating, isn't it? I have it with clients both ways, where they weight loss is it. As a woman, we're always worried about our weight, aren't we? We're always concerned about it, so like we can't ignore it. But I agree that I have sometimes had to get them to check back in again, and I'm like, they either haven't lost as much weight as they wanted to, or they're fixated. I'm like, well, remember how bad you felt. Remember when you couldn't sleep. Remember when your digestion was all over the shop. When you didn't poo for 3 days, and they're like, God, yeah, I forgot all about that. And it is, we become fixated with that weight, and actually it isn't, is it? It's a happy side effect of eating healthily, of eating properly. And I think, it's a shame that we have to keep reminding people, because we just do see the external, don't we? That kind of, oh, you're looking, I stop myself from saying it now. It's like, oh, you're looking really well if you lost weight. And you're like, that sentence should not be part of the same thing, should it?
I've done the same thing. I'm like, oh my gosh, you look wonderful. Period. Like, stop. Don't say anything about weight.
Yeah, exactly.
We kind of connected those two. Like because how many people said that to us, right? Like, you look really great. You must have lost weight. Okay, well, I only look good if I'm losing weight. Like, that's what that messaging tells us.
Yeah, and it's damaging, isn't it? It's really damaging. It's really damaging. I love what you say about you kind of helping women to break through so they can be calm and confident. And I think lots of women forget how much of a leader they are, whether they like it or not. All women are, particularly moms. I'm not a mom myself, but particularly if you're a mom, you are a leader, aren't you? You are creating the next generation, and everything you say passes on to them. I mean, is this part? I love the fact that you're saying that, sort of break free, calm, confident, and healthy. Do you think this has a real impact on the next generation?
It absolutely does. I mean, I learned my behavior of hiding food in my room and rewarding myself with sweets from my mom. So it's very much a learned behavior. So I had to break free from that so that I wouldn't pass it on to my kids, because those cycles through generations repeat unless somebody steps in and says, no, this ends with me. And I love what you said, because moms are leaders, but I don't think that we view ourselves that way. Like, I definitely view myself that way. And like, I am leading, like I need to have my stuff in order because I want to lead well. But I don't think that's the messaging that moms are getting from society. It's like, oh, I'm just a mom, or and it's like, no, you are raising the next generation. Like, let's give that some serious credibility and thought and intention.
Yeah, it's a really important job, isn't it? A really important job. And I think lots of women put themselves last on the health list as well. It's kind of, the kids, yes, great, that's lovely. The kids come first. Yes, they're kind of, but actually to the detriment of their own health.
Absolutely. It's like when you go on the airplane, what do they say? Put on your own air mask before you help anybody around you. It's the same thing.
Definitely. Love it. So if you were going to give me, I love my tips. So if you could give me sort of 3 tips on how to kind of break that sugar roller coaster and gain some more freedom, what would your top 3 tips be for the listeners?
I think the first one is to stay hydrated. And that seems really basic, Wendy, but a lot of times we have a craving and we think it's food. We might actually be dehydrated. So I love to tell people, if you have a sugar craving, drink a glass of water, give yourself a few minutes and see if that helps a little bit. And if it doesn't, then you might physically be hungry and your body might need some nourishment. So the first one is to make sure that you're hydrated. The second one is to replace judgment with curiosity. So if you find yourself, maybe you did the first step and you tried some water and you still ended up with some ice cream in your hand, ask yourself why. What am I looking for in this moment? Because a lot of times it's not really the ice cream that we're looking for, but maybe it's something else. Maybe we're looking for connection, or maybe we're looking for something has happened and we don't want to handle it. So we're using the food to kind of push it down. Like, get curious on why you're going towards the sugar. That's really powerful. And then I think the third thing is and this is another kind of basic one, is make sure you're getting enough sleep, because when we're tired, our bodies are constantly looking for energy, and usually it's in the form of sugar or caffeine. So just make sure that your basic sleep needs are met and your body's getting what it needs.
I love those. I love those. The problem is, isn't it, I suppose, with, mums with young kids, is sleep is such a difficult one to crack, isn't it? It's really difficult. But I love that tip about curiosity and asking the questions. Do you find that improving the self-talk as well, that language that we use with ourselves, is powerful? Do you do work with that with clients?
100%. Because it all starts in the mind. Where the mind goes, the man follows. So we've got to get this in check before we can address the behavior, right? So it's kind of happening simultaneously. Like they're getting tips and tools that they can implement, like the staying hydrated, being curious, while we're also shifting those beliefs and the habits in our minds.
Yeah, we are our own. We talk to ourselves. I always say, Jack, would you talk to your best friend like that? And you so wouldn't you? But it is that we all want something practical, don't we? We all want something that we can take away, like a piece of paper, a prescription, whatever it might be. We want something, but actually it's the rhetoric between ourselves that is really difficult from. We both had birthdays last. Was it your birthday yesterday? Happy birthday for yesterday. It was mine last week. I'm a bit older than you, but I was 50 last week. And so
happy birthday to you.
Thank you. Although this is good. We're pre-recording this, guys. So this was a few weeks ago when it goes out. But hey,
so you missed it.
but it is that kind of, it did make me think about that kind of, when I was actually choosing the food. I had a pot because it's my birthday. I had a party and I was choosing the food, and I was like, there was a very limited choice. It was kind of a chain place that we went. So I was like, I don't really want any of this. And there wasn't any kind of good, healthy options on. And then it was like, add a sweet thing. And my friend made me a lovely cake, and that was great. But that was like homemade. Do I know what went in it? And I do agree that I feel now that, whereas when I grew up, there was junk food available, but it was less available. I'm using junk food, in the inverted commas, like kind of thing. But I agree, it seems worse now. It almost feels like there isn't help. There is a small amount of healthy stuff. It's like you have to have that, otherwise there isn't another option. Even yogurts, like kids' yogurts. I noticed the other day I was with a client shopping, and it had sugar in it. So the adult version didn't have any sugar in it, but the kids version had sugar in it. You're like, well, why? It's got fruit in it. Why does it have to have sugar in it?
I went to a workshop at my kids' school a few weeks ago, and it was all on drugs and vaping. And what got me, Wendy, was she was talking about even the vaping manufacturers are targeting the kids by making the vape sweet. So they'll use flavors like cookies and cream and, mango and popsicle. And I'm like, so you're basically using sugar as the gateway drug to get these kids addicted to vaping.
Oh, that's awful. What do you say? I'm a bit speechless, to be honest. I'm a little bit speechless. So how do we get around that? Is it about education?
I think education is a part of it, Wendy, but I think people know that sugar is bad, right? Like, I think it's sometimes we need to have that inspiration and that motivation to act and take action, because knowing isn't always enough. If we knew, I think we know, right? Like, people know the basics
how to
of
eat
health.
well.
Like,
yeah.
So I think there's almost that missing piece.
Yeah. And I think what you said was really interesting about kind of making it interesting as well. I think it's right that people have this preconceived idea. It's like when they come and see me, they think that I'm going to give them a meal plan that says, get up in the morning, drink a glass of water, then have this for breakfast, have a snack here, and I don't. And when I kind of allow them to make some like healthier choices, but give them ideas and give them pointers, they're like, well, it was dead easy, and I'm really enjoying having avocado on toast. And I'm like, well, that's great, because if I'd have told them to have something different, they wouldn't have learned the way. And it's about finding foods that you love, because if I tell them to eat it and they don't enjoy it, they're just going to go back to the food they were having before, aren't they?
Yep, totally. I think it almost has to be like their idea. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like my children, if it's their idea to clean their room instead of me telling them, that's going to go over way better.
Yeah. And having that option, having that option, like at the end of the day, fruit is really sweet, isn't it? Lots of my friends have kids that love fruit, but if it's not next to that sweet option, they're never going to kind of create that palate, are they? It's an easier to grab and go. And like you said, with schools and stuff, you can make, even if it's, dark chocolate dipped things, it's still a better option, isn't it? And it's still going to be really tasty and fun, and adding that fruit in. So yeah, super challenging. I can imagine, and I can't imagine how difficult it is trying to sort of bring kids up with less sugar. Let's not say sugar free, because I think that's perhaps the biggest,
not realistic.
No, the hardest, absolutely hardest. Thank you so much. That's been really useful. I've loved that, and I hope that my listeners have as well. I'm sure there's been some great tips there, and I think sometimes it's just good to hear from someone like you who just kind of goes, actually you're not on your own. We're all struggling with this. I don't have a massive sugar, a sweet tooth, we call it sweet tooth, massive sweet tooth. But I have to say, this last week, and because it was my birthday last week and I was kind of out and I was having things like that, I've really noticed this week that I've eaten my meals as I would do normally, and then gone, just fancy. And it's right, it's that addiction, isn't it? That, I never do that normally. I'm always very satisfied. And all this week I thought I have to stop. And there is still cake in the house. I have to stop that because I'm doing it, and I know I don't need it, but my body is, my mind, it's not my body, my mind is telling me. Tough to break.
So interesting, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It is.
Really is addictive. Like I can tell, like you said, when you have something sweet, like I feel like all day I just crave sugar all the more. And I'm like, I can't do that. Like that it doesn't work for me.
Yeah, no, I'm like all or nothing. Like I said, and I don't feel I'm a sweet person, but yeah, all or nothing. And I realize that it's like none. Otherwise, yeah, I do. It's that next day and the next day. Oh, so that's brilliant. Thank you so much. I have one final question for you. It's a question that I ask all of my guests. And as you're an American, I'm going to explain the question. And that's not your fault. I had to explain it to someone else the other day who was just lived in the South. So my husband is from the north of the UK, and they call their evening meal tea. And so in a house, so it's kind of an homage to him. So it's a bit of a tongue in cheek. So what have you got for tea tonight? What is your evening meal? Do you know? It's very early in the day for you. So do you know?
I do know, because my husband will not be here. So I'm flying solo tonight for dinner, Wendy. So we are having tacos. I'm going so basic. I've got some grass-fed ground beef, and I'll mix in some taco seasoning, and there we go.
Love it. Very nice. And I like the fact that you said, I've got some grass-fed beef, not just any old beef. Good for you. Yes. Excellent. You can tell you've had nutrition training.
Totally. And I'll put it on I'll do a salad. I like it on a big plate of spinach, and the kids like it with the shell. They think that's fun. So
yeah, it's going to be. We will put all your links in the show notes, but where do you hang out most? Where can the listeners find you if they want to connect with you?
Oh gosh, I'm on Facebook and Instagram, so either location is good.
Okay, brilliant. And you're on that. You kind of got a underscore on your. I'll put a link in the show notes. I got connected with you earlier, so we'll put a link in. Thank you so much. You've been a wonderful guest. Really enjoyed chatting to you.
Thank you for having me. It was awesome to connect.